we need 62 cents per kilowatt hour. Okay, so that means going from 87 down to 62.
Yes.
Okay, and we made that crystal clear. That's the only time that we will be able, as a company, to restart our smelters. We cannot expect somebody else to pay for us to beneficiate. That's not the way it works. The industry cannot be worse off because we are getting cheaper electricity.
South Africa sits at the heart of the global chrome value chain, yet the future of its ferrochrome industry is once again under scrutiny. As debates around export taxes and controls resurface, the central question is whether tax policy can truly catalyze beneficiation or whether it risks masking deeper structural challenges. For more on this, we are joined by Japie Fullard. Japie, thank you so much for your time. When we talk about beneficiation, which comes up quite a lot in many conversations, particularly around mining, at a strategic level, how should beneficiation be viewed, especially in the context of modern chrome or ferrochrome value chain?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's very important to first acknowledge that we are also chrome miners. So we are primary producers, and then we take the chrome and we convert that into ferrochrome. So either we sell the chrome to let's say exports as it is, as a raw product, or we beneficiate. So, and that decision to either sell it as a raw material or beneficiate, it's all about financial profits.
Yeah.
So if you have a look at, for instance, South Africa, I think beneficiation has got a 5 times multiplier, financial multiplier. So, and I think many people do not understand this, is that's where the biggest value lies, is that you take your ore and you then add value 5 times more than just selling the ore. So from that perspective, it's clear to then understand that beneficiation is a very important ingredient in the South African economy. If you have a look at people, labor, human beings, it's a 8 times multiplier. So that means beneficiation doesn't only create a financial benefit, but it also creates a massive labor or unemployment value, value chain.
What does successful beneficiation look like in your industry?
Successful beneficiation obviously must make sense. It must make financial sense, and I think this is where people must understand. That's the reason why Glencore, for instance, over the last 6 months, didn't operate one furnace in 6 months. We didn't have one of our furnaces operating. We just sold the ore and stopped paying the people. So why did we do that? Because it's financially better for us to just export the ore.
Yeah. Fundamentally, if we have to think about some of the structural enablers or whether the constraints, so to speak, what are there right now? I mean, how do we balance that? If you had to have 2 columns that looked at the enablers and the constraints for beneficiation, what do they look like from your point of view?
Look, I mean, why is it that we have closed down all our smelters? I think that's the fundamental question.
Yeah.
So if you compare ourselves versus China, because we are exporting our ore to China, so we are direct competitors towards China. And obviously the biggest enabler would be electricity. So, and you would have seen that through the NERSA process, they gave us now the 87 cents per kilowatt hour, coming down from the R1.35. It's still not good enough for me to restart all my smelters. I can at least start Lion, which is in Steelpoort, which is the biggest ferrochrome smelter in South Africa. It was the biggest one in the world a couple of years ago. Obviously, China have now got 1 million tons plants. But so for us, the enabler would be cheap electricity. Yeah. So that's the first hurdle that we need to cross.
Let's talk about that hurdle. If we all sit around the table, where are we missing each other here when we talk about the idea of cheap electricity? Because it seems like we talk about it, but
Yes.
at what point is the idea not landing, perhaps on the other side, or perhaps what they're saying it's not landing? Where is there the mismatch here?
Yeah, I think the mismatch is exactly the question of if they give us what I want. And I can tell you now, we were very clear as Glencore what we need. We need 62 cents per kilowatt hour. Okay, so that means going from 87 down to 62. Okay, and we made that crystal clear. That's the only time that we will be able, as a company, to restart our smelters. All right, so that will be the enabler. But if you do it in the wrong structure, and I think that's where things like the ore tax came up, and somebody must now pay for this. Now, we can't expect the public to pay for that. And I think that's very important. And yesterday, in our discussions as well, it was made very clear. And I mean, we as Glencore always also stand for exactly that same thing. We cannot expect somebody else to pay for us to beneficiate. That's not the way it works. The industry cannot be worse off because we are getting cheaper electricity. Public cannot be worse off because we want cheap electricity. But there are mechanisms that we strongly believe, that can work. I mean, we are baseload. So that means when South Africa sleeps, when you sleep tonight, 12 o'clock, we burn and we use electricity. And we've got access of electricity. So just, think about that, is that for the whole South Africa, if we are the baseload customers, it's better for all of us because now we know that, I mean, Dan from Eskom and the guys have done such a great job in terms of getting Eskom to a point where they've got access to electricity. But now at night times, they shed it. So they buy coal and then they shed it. I mean, we should use it. You know what I'm saying? So it's an easy solution in my view. And I can tell you, the minister, the government, everybody is really working very hard to get to the solution.
Okay, and I was going to ask you that because you want 62. What are the reasons you're given on why you can't have 62? Do you get those reasons, or is there a middle ground that?
It's if you do it in a certain structure. I mean, if you just think about the MPA, you know that we've got the MPA. The MPA stands for Negotiated Price Agreement. So we've got a special tariff, all right? I've got cheaper electricity than you, okay? And that's where the problem lies, is that the cheaper I get the electricity in that structure, somebody must pay for it. It's a subsidy, and we cannot let South Africa pay for that subsidy. I mean, they quoted 9.6 billion that we need a subsidy to be able to actually support us as a ferrochrome industry. I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want somebody else to suffer because we are getting cheap electricity. Let's use a vehicle outside the structure where we are now that you can get it without a problem. And nobody then actually that's the catalyst for all the other ferroalloy businesses in South Africa as well, is that this is a type of a mechanism where everybody can gain and benefit. I just want to maybe tell you this, maybe you know this or not, but ferroalloys industry is 110 billion to the fiscus per year. 110 billion. So if you take that away, who's going to pick up that tab?
Yeah.
So that's why beneficiation is so important. But it cannot be to the detriment of somebody else, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. On that, what are the assumptions around chrome beneficiation that you believe are inaccurate?
The assumptions, in my view, I would say, is that people believe that beneficiation, primary, let's say, chrome production or primary production, is that terminology from pit to port. All right, that's That's the buzzword nowadays, the pit to port. Now, I've got a concern with that because in the middle, I believe that the resources belongs to South Africa. If we have got all the resources, we must be the first people that benefit, correct? And I don't think that everybody understands that. I don't think that people understand that there's such a massive multiplier that we as South Africans, I'm not talking about Glencore now, I'm talking about South Africa, because it's strange. I mean, I even said it yesterday. I can actually close down all my smelters. I will make more money. I will have no carbon tax. I will have no CBAM. I will make more profits for my shareholders. I will be a hero for the wrong reason. That's not what we want to do. And I think that perception, there's a perception in here, but you cannot do it. Again, I'm stressing that point because you cannot do it just to save ferrochrome smelting in South Africa. So that for me is, the real, let's call it, narrative.
A bit earlier on, you were talking about China, and I was curious here in terms of how global competition is shaping the feasibility of beneficiation in South Africa.
Yeah, that's the challenge. So the Chinese, China doesn't care about making money. So they've got their cost of capital is almost zero to 5%. So if I give you a certain amount of capital and you're a shareholder, you expect returns, correct? They don't operate that way. So what they do is they go out and they are beneficiating and actually creating jobs. We in South Africa or wherever, it's a supply-demand issue. I mean, I can't expect my shareholders to support me without expecting any returns. And I think that's the biggest narrative change, that we've seen. I mean, if you have a look at China, Inner Mongolia sits on 60% of all the electricity is already renewable. I'm not sure if you knew that, but already renewable. So they've got cheap electricity. So the only way for us to get into the ring to fight is cheap electricity. But that's only the start. The fight will definitely continue. So, yeah.
I was going to ask about renewable energy, and I think it's quite interesting that you brought it up. So the idea of self-generation, renewables, hybrid energy, all of those type of models that are out there, realistically, what role do they play when it comes to energy-intensive smelters?
Yeah, good question. Very good question. So we are baseload. So that means we need electricity 24/7. So renewable energy cannot work for us, except if you've got battery solutions. Now we know that with any solar, wind, whatever energy solutions you've got, you need batteries, and you need massive batteries, because we use, between ourselves and Samancor, most probably 2 gigawatt of electricity. So that means we are using more than 3% of the total South African electricity demand. So, I mean, that's massive. But you need that base load. So you can only, and I think this is where the whole thing about fossil fuel, the coal side, comes into play. I mean, we don't say that we must only use coal. But in the meantime, while everybody is going and installing more and more electricity or renewable energy, there's still a window, I would say a couple of years, maybe 10 years, where fossil fuels is going to be critical in South Africa to be able to still beneficiate, because renewables will not help us currently.
So we've spoken about renewables. Where do small modular reactors fit in, if at all?
No, I think that's definitely the future, because that will allow us as baseload customers, it will give us a constant supply. It's another type of technology that can really work. But if you compare currently what it is, the price, the competitiveness of that technology is currently not viable for us. The cheapest electricity that we can currently still have unfortunately, is fossil fuels. So, do we believe that is the future? Yes, but unfortunately, not for the next 5 years.
Okay. The next 5 years, if you and I had to sit across from each other, perhaps now, and we look to 5 years and we say, we want to redesign a chrome beneficiation framework that looks great in 5 years' time.
Yes.
It's ticking all our boxes. What does that framework look like right now if we had to put the points or the themes together to make it work?
You've got some great questions, by the way. Okay, so cheap electricity. That's the why, because 40 to 50% of our cost is electricity. So that's the first enabler. The second one is technology.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got Lion Smelter. That was the last smelter built in South Africa. We've got the premise technology, best technology in the world. I mean, even the Chinese do not have that technology. But that's not enough. So we need to find a new solution in terms of technology. So that's the second enabler. The third one, I would say, is how can we reduce our carbon footprint? Because that is going to be a very, very big challenge for us. I mean, you know about the cross-border adjustment mechanism, the CBAM. I'm telling you, we are going to face, that's our next challenge, by the way. So we need to reduce our carbon footprint in terms of beneficiation, yes.
Japie, thank you so much for your time. For more mining insights, you can go to miningindaba.com.